Okay, so hello everyone, my friends, and welcome. If you would, yeah, your choice. You can either sit up. I'm not going to chat for too long, or you could lie down and relax. We're going to start in a sitting position, coming forward. No, we're going to start in a sitting position, sitting, not coming forward first. But either way. So yes, welcome to your exploration of your body. I thought this afternoon I would start out with some quantum physics. So if you don't get this, don't worry. It took me a while to get it, but I'll just share this with you. Why can you not trust atoms? Because they make up everything. So probably good that you were all muted, so I can't hear the moans and the groans and the chaotic laughter. Maybe I should just repeat it. Why can you not trust atoms? Because they make up everything. Now the exploration of yoga. So that's probably as funny as I will be this evening. So although that's setting the bar pretty low, so we'll see what happens. The other thing that I wanted to just share with us, because I'm always really trying to take my very small understanding of yoga and simplify it as much as possible. And so, yes, I understand that we, all come to a physical, a body consciousness practice with, many, many different perspectives and backgrounds and even agendas and things that we would, like to see happen, or maybe things we would like to remove. And even, myself day to day, I know that sometimes I just want to feel a release in my shoulders, or let go of some tension that has been building up. But I think it's sometimes important to keep simplifying what it is we're actually doing in this in this vast container of yoga. So start with what we're not doing. Well, and this is ultimately, of course, like I said, day to day, we come onto our mats for very different reasons. But ultimately, we're not trying to mend the body. We're not trying to make sense of or even soothe our mind. And we're certainly not trying to bring a sense of equanimity to the heart. Very simply, what we're exploring, what we're opening to, what we're holding as potential and possibility, that we can find some space behind the thoughts, we can find some space between the thoughts, and then just simply rest. And it's from this resting in this spaciousness that the exploration really begins. Then if intuitively we are intuitively called to explore mending the body and what that means for us, if we are intuitively called examining the fluctuation of our thoughts, we are drawn to that. And the same with our our emotional tone. If we are intuitively drawn to explore that, then so be it. But the ground of being, if you will, the container for this discipline, this science, this study of yoga is to not begin with wanting to alter the body, alter the mind, or alter the feelings, emotions. It is to find a space behind, find a space between the thoughts and simply rest there. Not complicate that in any way, not try to overlay any of our techniques or philosophies, but just to simply do that, to simply rest between the spaciousness in our mind, rest between the spaciousness behind the mind. And then the opportunity is to take that into each and every one of the asanas that we're again using to hold space for this very exploration and becoming increasingly sensitive. This is where the sensitivity of the practice becomes very apparent, because the sensitivity then is woven in to our intuitive intelligence in what it is what is it that we really want to, need to, are drawn to exploring. Yes? Okay, so please take out a large bolster. And if you don't have a large bolster, you can just simply fold up some blankets. I don't really need to show you how to fold up blankets, but just something to approximate the height of the large bolster. But I'm going to use it with the large bolster. We just want this to support the arms. And then you may need to bring it around front when we come into the forward bend for frontal support, but you can just very easily move that. So what I would like you to do, and if you've been sitting listening to me chatter with your knees bent, let's just open them for a moment and loosen them up a bit. So what I would like you to do is place whatever height you have, pillow, bolster, blankets, about an arm's length behind you, so we can set the wrists and the hands on it. And then crossing the legs, let's begin with crossing the legs. So you can we're going to come forward, and my suggestion is to bring the left leg in and to bring that right foot up on top of the calf, if you're able to just do a simple closed square. If this is not quite accessible, understandable, then just put something soft and open that leg out. So I love them both. They're a little different, but they're both extremely valuable. So you can do this in the open position for the square or the closed. Yep. So we'll just sit in this as we're opening up the shoulders. And then my suggestion is to interlock your fingers behind your back and just set the hands up on top of this, yeah? So this just prevents us from having to maintain the muscular effort for a period of time. Try to keep the elbows straight. If this seems a little shallow, you could build the bolstering up a little bit. If it's too much, you could either remove it or just bring the bolstering down or have nothing, but just make it work for your arms. And then see if you can keep the elbows relatively straight. And we'll just hold this for a very relatively brief period of time. So I'll start the timing right now. And I think it's good to share with you that the time will be limited when there's muscular effort involved, because the muscles are going to fatigue. When we're more addressing the tissues of the ligaments, not so much. We don't need to know that, because we enter into this more relaxed, open-ended, vague space. So we're not really concerned with time at all. But when we're holding muscle and it can fatigue and a lot of things can happen, spasming, we want to have some idea that it's going to be relatively limited. So we'll hold this just maybe for like a little over 1 minute. So just relax Let your shoulders relax. Any movement of the head at this point would be welcome. If you want to just lean into any contraction or density in the neck and the shoulders, and just really feel that such an interesting relationship. Feel that relationship between the actual weight of your skull and how that penetrates into the neck and the top of the shoulders. Just a lot going on there. You could also, on the inhale breath here, you could bring the heart up, the top of the chest up. You could feel a bit more expansiveness. And the exhalation, you relax down a bit. So you're kind of using the breath and the micro movement of the body to just synchronize this rhythm of movement, breath, respiratory diaphragm, movement, opening and relaxing of the shoulders. Good. So let's release this now. So just take your arms off of that, bring them forward. And then if you're set up in a square position, great. If you're not, because of your knees, come into it. And again, either with the right foot on top of the left calf or higher, if you like. If you have a square that's a little higher, that's great. Or out front, either one. And then again, the entrance in is always done with just great delicacy. So from sitting relatively straight, just begin to let the entire back line relax. Again, some awareness of the weight of the head, the relaxation of the shoulders, and then any points of density, any points of pain or restriction, bring your attention there. Don't bypass them. Like I said, if that support you had behind you is needed up front, bring it up front to rest on it, and then just come into a forward bend that we can indeed forget about how long we're here and just really start to merge with the nuance of the sensations and the feelings. And please let me emphasize again that this exploration that I'm suggesting, not me really, that yoga is suggesting, to find space behind your thoughts. It could be below your thoughts, above your thoughts, between your thoughts. This is not difficult. We do not need years of esoteric meditation training. We do not need layers of, complicated philosophy or even psychology. Just as we rest back into ourselves, into our sense of our expansive self, we can easily see that just as the body has an objective experience to it, the emotions that arise, that come and go, have an objective quality to them. So do these thoughts that come and go. They have an objective quality. They're there one moment, they're not there the next. So this is what we're attempting to do very simply, is to recede back from these objective qualities of body and heart and mind, and also world, but that happens rather naturally. And just find a sense of a personal internal spaciousness and just simply rest there. and trust that this is the container of our intuitive intelligence. Use this one. Use this one.
Good. So let's roll up from here. Yeah, this is a nice start. And if you have your support out front, let's put it right back where it was behind you. And let's open the legs out here to, again, let the knees relax. And your choice, you can do this the second time with the knees relaxed out, because we're going to do the second side of the square. Or if you prefer, you can just get ready for the next side. I mean, part of this is just to compress into the knees. So to sit like this before we go forward, it can be very nice. So on this side, we would obviously bring the left foot up onto the right calf, or bring something soft in front and place it in front. But we're going to go back into the shoulders. So again, your choice is to leave the legs out, relax, and we'll put the arms back, or if you want to bring them in. So same thing, we'll keep the support about arm's distance away, interlock the fingers, and then bring the arms up onto, not the arms, actually the hands. And here, the second time, I have my wrists apart. You can keep them apart, or you could bring them together. This just will pull the shoulders together. So either way for that. And if it's a little too intense, this will intensify it, obviously. If the intensity is too much, always feel free to just let the fingers not be interlocked and just place the arms there. Or like I said, you could just let them relax down. So anything just to compress back into the shoulders. And again, a very limited time to hold this. I prefer you don't use this. I need these. Can you use this? There you go. And again, you have the choice of having some micro movement of your neck and head, or you could use this opening, this rib cage, thoracic cage opening, to slow down and deepen your breath. So one of the things that we are using the perspective of the yin to explore is, as much as we can really, is that if we want to deepen our breathing, and we really want to deepen our breathing, we don't need to worry so much about the inhalation. So this is a misunderstanding. When we're invited to breathe deeper, we immediately
take in a deeper inhale, but the length of the exhalation will determine the depth of the inhale. So how much we can empty will determine the volume of the air we can take in. So it's really nice sometimes to take these positions and feel the movement of the respiratory diaphragm, especially when we're open like this. The inhalation, you'll feel it pull down into that mid solar plexus. On the exhalation, you can feel it compress up into the upper chest and the heart. Good. So once again, let's relax the arms. And if you did this with the legs out, just the reminder is that the right one will come in, the left one will either come up onto the right calf, or it will stay in front. So either way. And again, the invitation to come into the pose is breath by breath, layer by layer, moment by moment, with no idea of a completed pose or a specific depth or any kind of aesthetic, but just what is the direct visceral feedback that your body is giving you, and just stay as present as you can with that. And this is always your guide, always your guide in, I would say, all hatha yoga, is to listen and stay present with the direct visceral feedback that you are getting. In addition to what I was saying earlier, that we're not, attempting to mend the body or, cultivate a mind of equanimity, or even a silent mind, or we're not trying to quiet the mind. This also goes for the, the variety of the qualities that are typically dangled before us in various traditions, to, be more spiritual, or to be more at peace, or to be happier, or to be enlightened. So none of these things are we seeking. None of these things are we looking for. We're simply resting within the spaciousness of ourselves. It's kind of like, searching for these things is really like a wave searching for water. The capacity to just rest within oneself, to rest as this awareness, as this spaciousness, as this openness, as this really, as this, eternal infinity, allows us to have the simple recognition that we already are this happiness, we already are this equanimity, we already are this light. So the rest is from the seeking, the rest is from trying to change, the rest is from trying to alter what we already are, to not disturb the process, to allow the wave of yourself to blend back into the ocean of your life.
So let's come on up from here. And let's let the legs relax out, and let's lie down and we will take a rest. So just make yourself comfortable. We'll take a rest for a few moments here. And you know what I also find very interesting about, you know, this process, or this, maybe this lack of process that I'm talking about, at least in the evolution of my own practice over the years, is that the more that I am able to let go of my own process, my own goals, my own agendas, my own needing to fix and alter things, and believe I know better, that things just fall into place, that the fabric of life just allows things to be as they are, and that the realization is, we're always in the right place at the right time, always. We just need to notice that. And if things seem like they are pushing back, or there's resistance or discomfort, then if we can pay attention to that, we get this amazing lesson. So there's nothing missing in really learning how to quiet down, to go inside, to rest in this spaciousness behind and between the thoughts, and just listen, because this is life that we're listening to. This is the intelligence. We can give it any word that we like, but it's our capacity to listen no matter what our interpretation of the moment is. So it's a beautiful thing that the slowing down and the movement to a quiet internal place will then share just tremendous benefits with us. And sometimes we're not clear what those are in the moment. We think it's going to be physical, and it turns out to be something psychological. We're sure that the knot is psychological. It turns out to be emotional. And the more we rest, we realize these are all intertwined, and it's way too complex for us to untie these knots. So we just breathe. We just rest. We relax. We take care of the body, and hopefully drink enough water. So come on up, please. This next thing, I would like to set it up. If you do have a small bolster, small one, then I would like you to take that and fold a blanket and put it on top of a folded blanket. Now, so maybe yes, maybe no. This is
this is for what we're going to do with the pelvis, a fairly substantial height. So I'm just suggesting it. You could do it with or without. If you don't have the bolstering, I had some blankets piled up, and this would be approximately the same as the small bolster and the blanket. So typically the blankets and the towels have a little bit more softness to it. Nothing wrong with that. Maybe I'll try it with this since I did it with this this morning. So some height here, yes, is what we want. And then depending on the, what your pelvis is holding, which for most of us is substantial, you can then adjust the height a little bit higher if you'd like, but also a little bit lower. And then what I would like to do here, maybe I'll just go on an angle here, is I would like to place the pelvis on this bolstering. So we'll just come to the hands and elevate the hips up and then place the back of the pelvis on here. The only caution here is to be careful that you don't place it too low. So if you can see, my buttocks are not on the floor because my pelvis is raised. If my buttocks were down, this would be my lower back. That's not what we want. So we're going to place this on the pelvis and then bring the upper body down safely. And then you may need to adjust it to really find the pelvis. Typically, I'll use either the pubic bone and then that bolstering should be right below it, or the hip bones and the bolstering is there. So not a whole lot. You may feel some residual pulling in the lumbar spine, but it should not be direct compression. And then the legs just relax out. And if you feel some tugging on the top of the hips, then we've involved the psoas, which is a good thing. And then we'll just relax here. So let the legs relax out, let the arms relax to the side, and we'll just take some time to let this compression seep in before we move anywhere else. So certainly, being aware of the sensations that you're feeling here that are arising, but also avoiding the temptation to listen to them in a way that you're interpreting them. So certainly we're listening to them, but we're listening to them in a very open-ended way. It's as if we were listening to, to the wind, or we were listening to a hive of honeybees. We wouldn't have to listen and interpret what does it mean. We just listen. We just enjoy the vibratory resonance. And the same thing here. There's just really a symphony of tightening and opening and shifting and movement and connectivity, and we just want to listen to it in a very open-ended way, a very receptive way. And you may be in a really good place here in terms of the amount of compression, in terms of the feedback that you're getting, and you may just want to stay put perfectly fine. If we want to, or if you would like to laterally flex the spine, ease a little bit more into the psoas, then you could do that as well. So we'll keep the pelvis right where it is on the bolstering,
and then we'll walk both heels over to the left without bending the knees and without letting that right hip roll off your bolstering at all. So just go to where your range of motion will allow, walking the heels over to the left. And then you can equally bring the upper body over to the left a little bit. This may, if you have too much height, the upper body may be a little difficult. So you can just kind of shimmy it over a bit. Same thing though, please try to keep the right shoulder on the floor. So we have right heel, right hip, right shoulder down, not rolled over to the left. Then you could also, from here, take that right ankle and cross it over the left ankle, and you can let this right arm come up over the head and place the back of the hand on the floor. So you've now created this lovely half crescent from the feet all the way through the fingers.
And certainly, the invitation is always open to, breathe with a connection to the respiratory diaphragm, to breathe with the knowledge that the ability to empty the lungs is what's really informing your capacity to fill the lungs. So that's an open invitation. You also can just allow the breath to float through the body. You can allow the breath to be this, if you will, this messenger of spaciousness and this messenger of lightness. And don't feel as the breath needs to be so concentrated or mechanical, but that your whole body is literally breathing. So just to breathe with that, to feel like, oh yes, I am floating in my breath and my breath is floating within me. Or as we would listen to the wind or the bumblebees, that my breath is my singing, my breath is my song. And we can just breathe at that level and just really appreciate and respect the breath as much as we're able to. Good. So if you have that right ankle crossed over the left ankle, let's first of all uncross it. And once you've done that, you can walk the legs back to a straight spine
and bring the upper body. You can relax that right arm. And before we go to the other side, what I would like you to do from this position, maintaining the height on the pelvis, is to just put the feet flat on the floor and just let them go side to side, nice and slowly. So really feel that this is a not a mechanical trying to push through something, but much more of a sensual movement, especially when you start to feel resistance in that you know the lumbar spine, but you may be sensitive to the SI joint here as well. So when that SI joint, those hips, the lumbar starts to tug, let the weight of the knees kind of play with that a little bit. So just back and forth in a more sensual kind of somatic way than a mechanical forcing or pushing way. Good. And then when you're ready, I first would maybe make a determination if you're still good at this height, since we're going to do the other side. You may want to bring it down. You may want to bring it up. It's up to you. So make that change if you would like to, and then you can straighten the legs back out. And the same thing on the other side. So we'll just walk the heels over to the right. Yeah. And then if you would like to, you can bring that left ankle over the right, bring the upper body over in the same direction. And again, keeping the that left hip and that left shoulder down. And then you can bring the arm up over the head so the back of the hand relaxes on the floor. It could be the arm as well. I just say the back of the hand because I don't want the arm just dangling in the air somewhere. It's best if it's supported. And then again, we have this nice half moon shape from the feet out through the fingers.
One of the reasons that we want to relax below the surface, to relax into this spaciousness that yoga is suggesting, is to take a rest from this preoccupation that we typically have with the really with the surface of things. Yeah. So when we have a persistent chronic pain, we can get preoccupied with that. When we have repetitive thinking or strong emotions, we can get preoccupied with these things. So these are the surface. These are the sort of the manifestations of very deep energies and currents in the body. So one of the ways that we can use imagery with this is that all of these contractions, all of these currents that get a bit blocked, they just represent residues in the body. Yeah, so anger is just a residue, and if it's not given the opportunity to release and flow, then it builds up, and then it wants to express. These aches and these pains, the same thing. If these densities, if these contractions at the physical level of these currents, these residues get built up and do not have the ability to release, then they are going to express themselves. They're going to manifest as symptoms. And the same thing with the heart. We know this of the heart. You know, if the heart is held contracted, if the heart is closed, then it expresses somehow. It doesn't feel good. But what I'm suggesting is that the deeper level are these energetic currents. And these can be energetic physically, psycho-emotionally. These are just the way that your body breathes and moves and morphs and unfolds. And some of these wounds, some of these residues are just very old and very deep. And so this is why we just want to relax around them. We want to just sink into what it is we're really exploring. And the surface will take care of itself. We don't have to worry. That's what I said earlier. We're not trying to fix. We're not trying to mend the body. We're not trying to calm the mind or soothe the heart. We're simply relaxing into the spaciousness of our own self-awareness where these currents are present. This is the expression of our incarnation, if you will. And what's got blocked along the way just is wanting to be released and move into the greater flow of how we experience ourselves. Good. So if you still have, or if you do have your ankles crossed, good time to uncross them. You can relax the arm over the head, walk the heels back, bring the upper body back to a straight spine. And then I'm going to suggest one more time before we come off of this to bend the knees and put the feet on the floor and just let the knees very, very slowly and just with a lot of juiciness go back and forth. And don't go too quickly. If you feel something at the end there, lean into it a bit. Let the weight of the legs draw you in. What does that feel like? And then the other side. So we'll just take a little bit of movement here. And then when you feel good with that, you can keep the feet on the floor. A couple of ways here. You can start to roll off to the side. I know ooh and ah, or you could elevate the hips and you can slide this bolstering out from under you. And then you may want to just we'll take a rest here, lay flat on your back if you'd like. It's also sometimes nice to curl up in fetal position, and this will be a bit of a mild forward bend. Another mild forward bend could be coming into child's pose, so you can counter what we did in the pelvis, or just anything that feels comfortable to you and restorative. and this is why the yin practice, the approach of the yin, uh, really is cultivating a sense of patience. So these residues and these wounds and these deeper contractions, like I said, they're typically very old, and we want to lean into them. We want to explore them with great patience. We're not trying to, fix something. And this, it turns into, all of our information, certainly we can put in the context of yin and yang. This is the beauty of it. But we can also look at it through the lens of, the masculine and the feminine. And I'm talking about our internal energies, not our gender. And the masculine has just this incredible need for completion. The masculine just wants to sit in the final satori of consciousness and just leave me alone. The feminine understands that it's never ending, that it's always unfolding. So the practice of yin is a very feminine practice in that way. And that whatever it is you're exploring, we're going to keep opening. We're going to keep being patient with these residues of discomfort, with these wounds of contraction in the body, and just allow that unfolding. That's life. Life is just unfolding. So, always we get to take this information that comes to us, this feedback that comes to us, and we get to filter it through whatever filter that seems to work best at the moment. And I think ultimately this is the balance that we all are able to rest in. And this is the power of deep rest, of not moving towards or away, is that we can experience both. This is the balance. When yin and yang dissipates, when masculine, feminine dissipates, we sit with that. We sit with that experience of just pure consciousness, of open field of awareness, but at the same time that there is this intelligence of unfolding. And we sit with that as a sense of equanimity and a sense of inner balance. Okay, so let's come on up and so I'm going to show you this. I did this with the blankets, and I'm going to show you with the bolster as well. So if you don't have the bolster, hang on. And this came out really well, these blankets that I was playing with today. So you see I have a blanket, a towel, and a blanket, a pillow on each end. So it's quite a contraption. But before I do that, if you have the big bolster, I'm going to show this with the big bolster, okay? So what I'm going to ask you to do is, if you have the big bolster, you may want to do this with just the big bolster. It's just a simple backward bend, but I'm inviting you to add a fold of towel over the end of it. So this is my thinnest towel. Yes, I could use this one, or I could go to something a little bit thicker and put over the end of it. Yeah, so I'm just draping it over. This doesn't seem like it will make a difference, but it will. So if you're using the bolster, and the same thing if you're using the towels, we're going to sit in front of it, tuck it in so it doesn't slide, hold it in, keep the feet on the floor, relax the body back over it, and then you'll see the towel is providing a little bit more compression than just the bolster will. I'm going to be here for a while. You may want just the bolster. You want to pad this up even more. I could have doubled this blanket and I'd be a little bit deeper in. And then for the head, my head is good. So, well, most of the time my head is good, but right now it's fine. You may want to bring something under the neck a little bit, but keep the chin up. Don't bring the chin below the forehead. So, and then the legs will just relax out. So let me just show it to you with these blankets, because it came out so well, the folding blankets. So what I simply did is I folded a blanket a towel, and then I have this nice thin blanket. And then I put the big pillow here, which will sort of extend the blanket to make it like the bolster. And then I put this little pillow on the end to replicate that blanket folding over. I know it looks like quite the contraption, huh? So same thing, I'm going to sit on the floor if I'm using all of my blankets and pillows, tuck this in, come over it. I'm using this pillow because we don't want the head to dangle back. Yeah, we want the head supported. Yep. So my head is supported. I've got a little extra compression in my lumbar, and the whole torso is supported. So really, it's the same thing as the bolster. This particular pillow in my lumbar is a little bit, providing a little bit more compression, but it's lovely. So either one of those, come into it, lie down, relax. I guess what I'm saying, maybe try to clarify it a bit or expand a bit with this idea that there are these, currents of energy that flow through your body that get contracted, that we are beings of contraction and expansion. We are beings of pulsation and vibration. So another way to sort of lean into that is where these are not literal linear knots that we can take the intellect and go in and untie the knots, and then everything is fine. If that was the case, then all we would need to do is therapy. But for most of us to be healthy and balanced and, enjoy the experience of life, we like to have a balance between therapy, yoga, and spiritual practice. So the willingness to move into the soma directly, the willingness to feel this pulsation, this vibration directly, use any metaphor, use any imagery, use any feelings that arise that are valuable. But ultimately, it's like a stream and the water and ice, it's still water. It's still the stream. So the physicality at the level of these currents is just what it is. It doesn't need to have a name. It doesn't need to have a technique. So it's a lovely thing when we can relax to the point where the language, whether it's my language or someone else's language or your own internal dialogue, we just let that go and understand that the language is just pointing to something that language cannot approach. And we just sink into the visceral, we sink into these currents, we sink into the breath. find space to rest behind your thoughts, between your thoughts. And resting in this spaciousness and feeling grateful just for the joy of existence. Having the direct experience of being alive and feeling blessed to be alive. Just a gentle, conscious breathing, knowing that the breath just wraps itself just like these lovely sheer veils of ribbons around the internal structures of the body, but it doesn't bind the body. And that place I was talking about, the mid to even lower solar plexus, this is the diaphragm really pumping and vibrating the organs through with the diaphragm. This is one of its functions. So we want to feel the function and the nature of the movement of this respiratory diaphragm when we inhale, and it's just working and massaging these internal organs. Same thing on the exhalation when it's massaging up into the upper chest and the pericardium and the pulsation of the heart. And again, it's just a convenience, for us to use the language of diaphragm and organs and pericardium and fascia. This is um, just a convenience. The reality is that deep within your body, at this cellular level, you're just information. And this is the profound nature of your myofascial system, this connective tissue. It's not just simply connecting you, it is the conduit for this profound information that keeps you alive. And so, yes, we want to, open the residues of, physical tightness to feel more open and feel less achy and stiff. But at a very deep level, we want the residues of these the blockages and knots to be open so this information can flow freely. You want everything in your body so fine-tuned that the information is being expressed instantaneously. This is quantum coherence. So the more open we are, the more the body can exchange this information, and we stay, healthy and vibrant and supple and happy and alive. So let's just stay just a bit longer here if you're able to, but let's bring the arms up over the head. And I would just like you to deepen the breath, but keeping the focus on the exhalation with this idea that the more that you can empty the lungs, the more it allows the inhale to be deeper and fuller. So the more air out, the more volume out, the more volume in. So arms up over the head, ribs open and stretch, and just play with that. Be amazed at how long you can exhale. And then anything that's been resting on the bottom third of the lungs that's stale and doesn't need to be there, it gets expelled. And then the volume of the inhale increases with fresh air. So just play with this for a few breaths. If you feel resistance, this is no different than the resistance in your knee or your hip. Resistance in the lungs, in the respiratory diaphragm, in the intercostal muscles, in the habit of your breathing. We want the breath to be long, slow, and deep. And then if you're ready, you can bend your knees and put your feet on the floor. And again, a little movement here is always wise when we're doing these longer holds to make sure that the muscles don't want to or need to spasm or something's going to tweak on you. So, do take your time coming out. Listen to the shifts of the body, listen to the shift of the mind, and then we'll come off of this and let's take another rest. And let me just say that again, because in a way, it's rather mind-boggling, and I do think it's a worthy thing to contemplate. So when you're in this restful place, I'm not talking about information at the level of the nervous system, where we, initiate something and there's a movement of, neurotransmitters, and then something happens. At the level of this connective system, the level of these, myofascial tubules that connect your whole body, that's everywhere and ubiquitous in the body. What I'm saying is information moves simultaneously. So there's not that old school nervous system where it has to go from point A to point B. It's happening throughout your body simultaneously. This is how your body communicates information at this level. So this is beautiful and deep and mysterious. So obviously not to be understood in a linear way. This is no longer, 1 + 1 = 2. This is 1 + 1 = 3. So allow yourself to just relax into that, into this incredibly brilliant, intelligent, wise, vibratory system that you live in. Or maybe it lives in you. I'm not quite sure about that. I also like this imagery of the entanglements, the entanglements of contraction in the body as residues, because I think it will help how we approach them. So instead of having a physical practice where we're determined to stretch it out or push through it, that we hear in some modalities. Instead of that, we want to think of these entanglements, these densities, these residues, as, let's just say, a fabric. In many ways, the body has fabric-like qualities that have knotted up a bit. And so we want to release or tease open these residues of contraction in as gentle a way as we possibly can. So we can imagine the compression as stimulating the production of fluids through these residues. We can imagine the breath itself starting to saturate and permeate these residues. And even the physical compression, we can relax into it so it feels like it is releasing. It feels like it is teasing open these residues. And this is why it is so important in the positions of this particular approach to certainly feel the compression, to feel that stressing in, but at the same time really making sure that you're relaxing. And that combination is very, very potent for starting to release and open and relax these contractions and these residues and these old held wounds. Okay, so let's come on up, please, if you will. And we're going to we're going to start out fairly straightforward, but we're going to do then, I'll just show you maybe before we do it. So if you want to kind of work with the angles of your hips. So what I'm going to invite you to do is open your legs out halfway between your widest straddle and hip width. Yeah. So for most of us, this will be like if you have a yoga mat, like the width of a yoga mat. Yeah. So because what I want to do is I want to come forward here. So we'll come into our forward bend here for a while, and then we're going to come up, but we're going to leave the left leg where it is at this angle and bring the right leg in for what would be the half butterfly position. Typically, we would bring this left leg straight out at hip width. What I'm exploring here is how much more open this left hip can be, how much more external rotation if we leave it at that angle. Yeah. So I'm not bringing it here. Yeah, we're going to put the legs out on the angle, come forward. Then when we come up, we'll just bring this right leg in. This one's going to still be at this angle, and then explore the forward bend. It doesn't have to be straight forward. You can come over to the leg a little bit. You can go over to the knee a little bit. Just kind of use the weight to see where you want to be. Obviously, use support if you need it anytime, but this will be a little bit of sort of playing with the range of motion, which is always good. Yep, but we're not going to start here. So let's start with the legs out at this angle I was suggesting. Yep, about maybe 2-3 inches over the width of a mat. And then we'll just come forward. Nice and relaxed. We're not trying to bring the chin or the head between the ankles. We want that relaxation in the lumbar spine to lead the way always. And then use some support or just come all the way wherever, hands, forearms, bolsters.
Good. So let's come out from here. It's nice and easy. And we're going to attempt to leave the left leg at the angle that it's at and just bring the right leg in, just around the knee, or, maybe at the knee, a little below the knee, just to let the right leg be relaxed. And if this is not completely working for you and you want to open up a little wider, or you need to bring it in a little bit, it's really your hip. So this range of motion is really unique to you. So, leave it there if you want to, or make a little adjustment with it. Just make sure it's relaxed and there's no, contraction from the quad or activating the foot. And then the same thing, come down a bit, come down maybe, 20, 30% of your range of motion, and then use all that body weight to see where you want to place it. A lot happening in the lumbar spine when we apply this much torso compression. So you be very sensitive to that. And then finally settle in and just relax and try to be still. Well, actually don't try to be still, just be still. There's nothing to try, you just relax. And be aware that when we're asking ourselves, how do we feel from the container of yoga, it's very different than if you're just being asked, how do you feel? And one of the things that I have noticed, and it becomes increasingly interesting, that whenever anyone is telling you how they feel, they're basically just giving you a list of circumstances, the situations, and stories. And for the most part, a lot of sad stories. So yoga isn't interested in the sad stories. Yoga is not interested in the circumstances. Yoga is interested in your vibration, not your circumstance. So how do I feel? This inquiry from yoga means, how do I feel at the level of life? How do I feel at the level of existence? How does your life force feel? How does the fact that you exist and you connect with that existence, how does that feel? Stories, they can come and go. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the stories, but there's a time and place for us to trade stories and examine stories and heal from stories or whatever. Yoga, again, is not interested in the circumstances, is not interested in the situations. It's interested in, how are you feeling at this much, much deeper level of somatic vibration, the somatic intelligence. So ask yourself this, let this be an inquiry. How do I feel? And then drop below the surface of the circumstance and story and go into the felt sense of your core, of your essence. Good. So let's come up from here and let's take that right leg and put it back at that place it was, or at that same angle we did the first time. And let's go back into the forward bend with both legs straight. So just go back to where we started. And again, go nice and slow. Make sure you're not trying to elongate that lower spine. Do not stretch or activate those intrinsic muscles of your lower back. Relax them. This means often a gentle curving and the upper body coming more down and in, not out and lengthening. And really, if you go into this, what a rest this is. If we really want to cultivate restfulness, taking a rest from our, situations and our circumstances, and just our history, and just the way that we, you know, automatically evoke memory and then apply it to our present, but just to rest from all of that and really be able to connect with ourself as life, as aliveness, as vibration, as movement, as this complex bundle collection of information. Good. So let us come on up from here and we'll keep going. So once again, keep the right leg approximately where it is. Have a little adjustment if you need to.
we'll bring that right leg in, and we'll go right back into the forward bend. Nice and easy, nice and relaxed. Use support if you need to. Don't worry about the alignment of bringing the spine down straight. You can sway here or there, and then find a place where you can use the compression to gently ease in and soften these residues without struggling with them, judging them, forcing them, or certainly trying to change them in any way. Whatever is present for you is present for a reason and has something usually very valuable to share with you. And also, something very liberating about being able to rest in this place I am suggesting behind the thoughts or between the thoughts, this spaciousness, this place of I am, really, this immediate awareness of who we are. If not, then the temptation to get caught in this labyrinth of body and mind. Is it the mind that's triggering the challenges in the body? Is it the body triggering the challenges in the mind? That's a labyrinth, and that's a trap that we typically don't get very far in. At least most of us don't. So what yoga is suggesting is establish this sense of I am aware, very, very close to us. We say it all day long, I. This is the awareness of I. This awareness of this awareness, yes? And then what we're aware of can have certain filters, if you will. We can have some distance from it. We have the capacity then to stay grounded and centered and balanced from this place of I, and then look out at the tangles and the labyrinth and the traps of what I am aware of. How is that awareness then funneled into attention? And what do I do with that attention? Do I get caught in the trap of what I'm attending to? Or do I stay back from it, stay relaxed and centered and calm and wise, and just watch it unfold? This is the depth, and this is the beauty of yoga. We're not trying to entangle anything. We're simply trying to have more space to see the trap of the tangles. Trying to untangle the trap of the mind is the trap of the mind.
So let's come on up from here. And let me see if we want to, well, you know what, let's not just lie down and rest yet. Let's take, if you have a small bolster, take your small bolster out. If you don't have a small bolster and you built up these blankets and towels, use that, but take a layer off. Yeah, so I want to have something to support the spine itself so the muscles can relax. Yeah, and then maybe a pillow for the feet or something. So yeah, this is the same. So this little bolster is pretty much the same length as these blankets. We just want it the length of your torso. So I'll use that. So what I'm going to suggest here is to sit on the floor, not on the bolster or your blankets, and just keep the feet on the floor, just allow your whole spine to drape over this, yeah? So this is going to hopefully be restorative, and maybe a little something in the spine. And then the back of my head is hanging off here, just a little bit. I don't like that. You might like that for your neck. But again, we want to move a little away from yin and a little more restorative. So I'm going to make a roll with one of my blankets and put a roll under my neck. So that's so much better. And then I would like you somehow to, not the height of the big bolster, but if you could just bring your legs up a little bit. So another blanket down there would be good. So what I have is I have my heels or my ankles on some pillow. So my femurs are elevated out of my hips. My buttocks is on the floor. A long bolster or a couple of folded blankets are supporting my spine. I feel really almost no compression at all. And then something under my head. So there's no or very, very little tension in the neck. I prefer no tension in the neck. And then the arms can just relax to the side. If you're a little chilly, bring some blankets over you. And let's just come into this position. This is a lovely, especially we did lateral forward back with the spine to just really let it kind of relax a bit, especially muscularly.
So just allow the entire length of the spine to relax as much as possible. So even if it's just for a few moments where we're no longer the wave chasing the ocean, we're no longer a separate individual chasing our personal happiness and enlightenment, our sense of self or self-image. But we take the opportunity just to rest and relax and feel intuitively that we not even are we connected to everything on some very, very profound and deep level. We are everything. And that doesn't have to be with fireworks and profoundly mystical and esoteric. That can simply be as we allow our energy to permeate past the container of the physical body. Can we actually find a boundary? Can you actually find a boundary between yourself and the floor or the earth or the sky? And little by little, we get to see for ourselves that we don't necessarily need this seemingly non-stop stream of thoughts to be. That when we can find that place behind the thoughts, find some space between the thoughts, we are still present. There is still presence. And it's this presence that we sit with in equanimity and balance and appreciation and joy. So this is a lovely position to stay in for as long as you would like. Your body feels like it needs something counter. Feel free if you would like to sit up with me for a few moments, and we will close our yoga. And touch the earth, honor the sky, bless the water. Namaste.